This is the Spirit and Wellness Show. News and information from a higher perspective. With your host, Harry Wilkinson. Yes, welcome. I am Harry Wilkinson, and welcome to the Spirit and Wellness Show. This is the show where we take a look at the days and weeks events, happenings in the world of politics, international happenings, the economy, tech, anything and everything we hear about during the course of our days and weeks, and we take a step back and we look at it from a higher perspective. From this higher perspective, we see the stories that are playing out, stories that we are creating, and what they say about us, and how ultimately we take the energy back from these situations and empower ourselves. More and more, of course, we have technology that bombards us with information, most of it not helpful. Yet we are bombarded with it anyway. Many people who think of themselves as spiritual seekers, who find themselves frustrated at the perceived negativity of the media and the rather dire, in some respects, aspects of the stories that we hear. And their response is to tune out, to disconnect. And I think that that's a valid thing to do. I think everyone should be incorporating time each week that is disconnect time away from these sorts of things. I think that's very healthy from a higher perspective and from a wellness perspective. But to disconnect oneself entirely from the media, as many spiritual seekers have a goal to do, what I would say is, unless you're willing to live on a mountaintop, off the grid, it's probably not going to happen. Not to discourage you from trying if that's what you want to do, but more important is that by doing so, you miss an opportunity. And that opportunity is to actually go into these situations, whatever it is that is bringing up feelings of, whether it's exasperation, depression, anger, fear, or even what some would perceive as positive feelings of maybe elation or excitement or overexcitement, to just go into those with a balanced, mindful approach, looking at it completely neutral. While you're feeling those feelings, you can also look at them neutrally, without putting a yes or no, positive or negative spin. The basic idea is to look at the situation from a different perspective. The perspective that I use is one of a metaphysical kind, in which we, at the highest level of who and what we are, which is beyond the physical level, which is a level of oneness that I refer to as divine mind. At this level, we are creators, and we are creating everything that we experience. And we're creating every detail and every nuance. And those details and nuances tend to be very good and very convincing. And we're creating them for a reason. We're creating them to have these experiences. To have these experiences through what you could think of as a hologram, if you will, in which we participate in a limited way. At that highest level of ourselves, we are not limited. So we don't experience fear or anger or misunderstanding or any of these things that cause us problems. But we create these scenarios, we create this everyday world that we inhabit to feel those things, to have those experiences, ultimately to reconnect to the truth of who and what we are. So by going into those things, the amazing thing to do is to feel those things and look at what we've created. Look at the detail. Look at how all of these things have been created. And appreciate that. Appreciate that. And if you can, look at your own life. Look at everything that's happened up to this point. What has it done for you? How has it changed you? How has it strengthened you? And when you look at things from that perspective, you begin to understand there's something going on here. You begin to understand there's a kind of evolution, if you will, that each of these experiences, each of these stories, each of these situations is bringing to the fore. And so when we look at the news, when we take it to this level of looking at news and media, which is something I do on this program, I don't know of any other program that does this. And I think it's so important, particularly in this day and time of increased media and increased bombardment with these things, to be able to look at it from that perspective. I mean, my goodness, what do we have? We have all kinds of talk radio from all kinds of different perspectives. You've got the bombastic talk radio personalities on the right. You've got the conservative Fox News media. You've got talk radio on the left, and the news media on on the so-called left. You've got all kinds of perspectives. You've got all kinds of spins on it. We've got a situation where opinion and news are blurring. Entertainment and news are sort of blurring. The lines of those are blurring. And in that situation, it's important to be able to take that step back. And it's important to have another kind of voice to talk about the news in a different way. And that's what I hope I do in this show that I've been doing for many years now. So those who find us, I've had good feedback from. It's great to be able to, take a break from the bombast, and, well, that's what I'm here to do, at the very least. And hopefully, my perspective and maybe some of the more spiritual aspects of the things I talk about you might shy away from, and if that's so, I'm sorry. But I think there's something here for everyone, just to be able to take a break from all the bombast and maybe look at things from a different way. Just so as I say often at the beginning of the program, though we talk about religion in different ways and different aspects of religion and different types of religion, this is not religious programming. This is not a religious show. In fact, one of the things I constantly talk about, because I don't hear it talked about enough in the media, is the fact, and it is a fact, that spirituality and religion are not the same thing. Quite the opposite. In fact, oftentimes, religion goes completely counter to our spiritual nature. And yes, we do have a spiritual nature, whether you consider yourself to be agnostic or an atheist or a Christian or a devout Catholic or whatever you consider yourself to be. Every one of us has a spiritual nature. It's actually coded in our DNA. It's called the VMAT2 gene, and latest research shows that this is the gene that makes us aware of or gives us the tendency towards transcendence, that rising above to take a look at things from a higher perspective. That gives us the sense of something beyond what we're experiencing in the immediate. And anybody who has taken on meditation or had an experience with certain types of psychedelics has probably had a similar kind of experience. So, today's show, I want to get a little bit away from the topical at the moment. Today's show is meant to focus on summer wellness. We oftentimes, because there's so much going on in the news, sometimes we don't get around to enough of the wellness. And I've heard from regular listeners that they would like to hear a little more of that. So I try to periodically dedicate, episodes to just wellness topics. So, having passed the Memorial Day mark, and seeing that it is the beginning of summer, the unofficial beginning of summer. I know it's a couple of weeks away, the actual beginning, but most people look at this as the beginning of summer. We're going to take a look at aspects of summer wellness, particularly things like travel stress, vacation stress, diet, and how to keep your weight down. A lot of people, as summer approaches, start thinking about slimming down or getting those abs in shape. Well, if you're trying to get your abs in shape, got a yoga pose for you that not only will help you do that, but also touches on all the different topics that I just mentioned as far as summer wellness is concerned. So we'll talk about that. But because there are some serious issues right now that are going on, they kind of compel me to talk a little bit about them, just to take that higher perspective. Right now, if we take a look at what's going on, in our political environment, we see some things that are concerning to many people.